Hello, my name is Nigelargriffiths. I work in IBM Power Systems Advanced Technology Support in Europe. In this movie we'll be looking at the new version of PowerVC 1.2.1, and that comes with the Shared Storage Pool support. Now I'm a big fan of Shared Storage Pools. It's a feature of the VIOS servers on our power machines, and we'll have some logical diagrams showing you what's going on there. But I think they're an excellent way of drastically reducing the manpower to assign disks to our virtual machines. We can do it in a couple of seconds, and there's a marvelous benefits thrown in by using shared storage pools like live partition mobility, thin provisioning and snapshots, all for free if you like once we move to them. So here's my older PowerVC, and we have to have a storage provider to provide the disk space. So we can click on here or click down here to have a look at that. Storage providers, and we have two. They're both V7000s with two different names. To actually gain access to this from PowerVC, we go in here, the add storage, and then we can put in the IP address to get to the disk subsystem, the V7000, the name that we want to appear here, and the username and password. This can be used to control what space can actually be allocated by PowerVC. We have to do a similar operation with the SAN switch. So again, the PowerVC can map the LUN over the switch to the zones and into the virtual machines. Now when you do these manually, I find them quite manpower intensive, quite easy to go wrong. You have to map it all the way through, and you have to know information and go to various places to actually set that up. PowerVC of course makes that simpler. So with PowerVC version 1.2, we had to use an SVC family like the SVC itself with something behind, or a direct V7000 device. Other disk types and vendors were not possible. They use this MPIV way of provisioning the disks, and that requires specific access to the SAN switches of particular types for the zoning. But with 1.2.1 we actually get more flexibility because we now have this shared storage pool support. This will work with any disk or vendor that's supported by the VIOS server already. It keeps the virtual machines very simple because we don't have to do mirroring at that level. We can do that in the shared storage pool, and that actually gives us some data recovery possibilities as well. SSP is ready for mobility, and it actually provides snapshots that can be very useful while doing things like upgrading your operating system. You have a 2 or 3 second rollback time to recover if it doesn't work. Also with PowerVC, when it deploys things in the shared storage pool, it's actually using these linked clones. So all the deploys from the same image that you've captured will actually share disk space until they actually write to a particular disk block, and then it gets copied, and a separate copy is made available for each person that does that. So here's my diagram of a shared storage pool called Stella that we'll look at in a minute. Looks pretty complicated, but let's build that up from first principles. I have 5 machines and 2 V7000s. The machines happen to be Power 6 model 520s, a few CPUs, 16 GB RAM each, and on those I have a VIOS server. I like to have a pair of them, and they would work fine with a pair of VIOS servers. I just haven't got enough fiber channel adapters. But okay, we then on the V7000s simply create some LUNs. We want to make them all the same size. We have a sort of standard in our computer room of nothing below 128 gigabytes of disk space. So 16 on each. I've only shown 3 here because my diagram's not big enough. Okay, we then zone those in across our fiber channel switch so that all these LUNs will be available and visible on all of the VIOS servers at the same time. On the V7000s it says sort of, are you sure about this? You don't normally have a LUN online to more than one server, but in this case this is exactly what you do need. Then we're going to run at the top here the cluster create command and give it a list of the disks. This is the sort of starter pack, and we do that on one particular VIOS server. On this case it's in the gold machine. Then we're going to use the add node feature of the cluster command to add in all the other VIOS servers. So now we're running a cluster of machines that are connected to those first set of 16 disks. Now then, because we want to be able to recover from disaster recovery, if the whole V7000 goes down, we want our cluster to stay up and still be able to do disk I/O. So we then run a command called the failure group, and we give it the name of another set of disks. We make sure that those two sets of disks are completely separate on two different disk subsystems. In my case, they're called TAN and DONE. And then we can recover and carry on running even if one of those fails. All of this we just do once. We set it all up once. From then on we can allocate space and assign it to a particular virtual machine in 3 different ways. From then on, every day, we can very quickly allocate and assign disks to our virtual machines. The simplest way, perhaps, is to go to the VIOS server and use the LU command with the create option, give it a name, specify the size, and how it's going to be connected to the virtual client via the virtual SCSI interface. If it's dual VIOS servers, we have to go to the other VIOS server and connect then the same thread to the correct virtual SCSI channel, so we have dual path. Alternatively, we can use the HMC. It's got on the graphical user interface, server configuration and virtual storage. Then we can see a picture of what's connected to what. We can click a button to create. Same details need to be added. It actually spots the fact we have dual VIOS servers connected and will actually assign both of those multipaths at the same time for you. Of course, the point of this movie is we're going to do this all automated behind the covers with PowerVC. So when you deploy a virtual machine, it's going to allocate the space and set up the paths for us. And when we want to later add an extra volumes, perhaps for the data, for your database or whatever, then we can actually allocate space and connect second, third, fourth disks to a particular virtual machine. So now we created our virtual machine and assigned some disks to it. It will be actually allocated a load of chunks spread across the disks, and there'll be 2 mirrored copies at the bottom here, so we've got the redundancy built in case of a failure. We can then add lots more, and we can see the disks will get the chunks will get spread out across the disks to even out the I/O across our back end. In our case, they're V7000s. We've got a couple of gigabytes of cache. They really actually fly along very nicely. Little warning, there's some prerequisites if you want to try PowerVC 1.2.1 with the shared storage pools. You have to upgrade your HMCs to software level 8.1 with the latest fixes. Don't get that confused with the HMC CR8, which is the brand new, slightly faster HMC hardware. This HMC 8 software can run on anything above a CR5. Then you have to upgrade your VIOS servers, or the ones that are running your shared storage pools, at least to 2233 with the latest fixes again. Don't forget you have to actually have the latest version of PowerVC for this. Always good to have your system firmware up to the best available level. Let's log in to PowerVC. You can see I'm being a bit busy here, lots of things going on. When I first thought of shared storage pools, I thought, well, that's going to be like a storage thing, isn't it? So, in the name, is a bit of a giveaway. These are my volumes from images and things, but if we look in storage providers in here, we can see, here's my 2 V7000s. This PowerVC is using MPIV and shared storage pools. It depends on which machines I'm actually working on. And we can see down here, these are 3 shared storage pools, Galaxy, Globular, Stellar. And I thought that when I'd add a new storage pool in here, though it wouldn't be here to start with, I'm going to add storage, and then now, a shared storage pool doesn't actually have a home or a primary or anything. It's all the VIOS servers make up a cluster, and it doesn't have one IP address, and that threw me a bit. And I thought, well, perhaps I just name one of my VIOS servers, put that in here, display name, give it the user ID and password. And he was quite polite, and he just said, Nigel, you're an idiot. This isn't a Storewise or SVC family device. This isn't going to work at all, so go away. So I then wondered, well, how do I actually get my shared storage pools online? But a little bit of magic happens in here. If you go to our hosts, when you actually find a host, it actually looks around that host and finds your shared storage pools. So in this case, we're going to try adding a host, and it says, okay, your host is connected to which HMC. So we'll click on one in here and connect. This is just going to log on to the HMC and ask it, what machines do you know about? Perhaps there's some that aren't already on our list in here. This does take about 20 seconds, so I'll snip this out of the video. Okay, so it's listed some of my machines here. Green, it says it's already managed, and we can see green is here. But these are some new machines. Diamond I have up here, and peach and purple down in here. So we could select one of these machines. This hasn't done anything yet. When I click the add host, that actually goes and looks at that machines. It will look at all the virtual machines that is running, including the VIO servers. VIO servers are obvious, aren't they, because it's a different LPAR type. It will then log on to those VIO servers via the HMC and say, okay, do you know about a shared storage pool? If the answer is yes, then we'll certainly find the shared storage pool appearing in our storage providers. I won't actually do that in this case. I don't want to manage that particular machine. Next thing to notice is there's some interesting things here in configuration. We've been in here in the past for placement policy, distribute them around all the virtual machines around the hosts, or fill up one and then move on to the next. Compute templates, they're sort of small, medium and large things, aren't they? And down in here we have storage connectivity group, so let's click on that. It gives you this picture at the top, which is trying to explain that either you could have just one storage device and everything goes onto that, or you could have different pools of devices that access the storage for different reasons. Maybe you've got production and development or something like that. Okay, so we just click on here, we can put those away. We'll look down in here. Here are my shared storage pools, Galaxy, Globular and Stellar again, and it has no preferences for which to join at the moment, and you can see my actual machines connected in here. Stellar has my 5 Power 6 machines, Globular has 2, and Galaxy just has the 1 at the moment. There's some other machines that I'm not managing in the Galaxy cluster. If we go to our virtual machines, we can see a long list of them in here, and I know that certain storage groups are on certain machines, but can we actually see this from the virtual machines in here? Let's select this one. The name of it here actually just drops me a hint that's AIX, but that doesn't matter. We can see the various details of a machine, and here, so the storage provider is my Stellar shared storage pool. If we go back up our breadcrumbs and select another one, for example my demo one in here, we can see it's storage provider Globular. And if we go back, if we scroll down here to something that's on the green machine here, as an example, let's select this guy here, we can see the storage provider is my V7000, so that's using MPIV. If we have a quick look here on our images, building up a set of images here, I've ordered them by clicking on this banner here by storage provider. So the first 2 are in the Globular shared storage pool and all the others are in the Stellar storage pool. Of course, these images are created by making a copy. In the case of MPIV and my V7000, the V7000 actually doing that copying of the boot disk of the virtual machine. So these are typically 64 gigabytes in size or something like that. It's my standard. And of course, that's actually sitting on a particular, either a V7000 in my case, or a shared storage pool. And when I want to deploy it, it's going to make, in the case of a shared storage pool, a linked clone. So it has to be in the same pool. You can't use, for example, this image here, which is in Globular, and then try and implement that on machines which are in the Stellar shared storage pool, because it's a completely different set of disks. If we try to deploy, let's take this SUSE 11.3 and deploy that. This is in Stellar. And we can see the storage template is in the Stellar as the default, and in here we can use the placement policy, or you can see here these are the 5 machines that are part of the Stellar shared storage pool. They're the only possible targets as the disk space is already in Stellar. If we cancel out of that and back to home, one area that I've been also using, this is an example of a Green 2 that's using a V7000, but we can add a extra volume to it, an extra disk. Just to attach it, we can attach one that's already been created. They'll appear in our list down in here, and if we click here they'll appear, or can actually just create one immediately. There's none in here. If I do attach a new one, it'll ask me where do you want that data from, and the size description and things in here. This works just as well with a virtual machine that is coming from shared storage pools. So in this case, perhaps this guy in here. This is coming from Stella. Again, I can attach an extra disk to it. One point with shared storage pools, because we've got mirroring under the covers, we don't need two, this is AIX root VG disks, because we've got a mirror already that the VIOS server is providing. So we've got just a single disk to boot from. That's nice and simple. Nice to keep the virtual machines as simple as possible. And then we could attach an extra, again, mirrored disk, perhaps for our databases or big pieces of storage that we need for our data. And that all works just fine as well. So we can attach one, ask it for a new one, and in here we'll find we can actually do the V7000 or the shared storage pool in this case. And we can just give it a name and give it a size, 200 gig, and we can plop a database in here. So that all works very nicely. I did find that I needed a little fix to get that working on the shared storage pools. That will come out in the next service pack. Another use of these attached volumes, if you have two clients like this, then you can attach a new disk to it, new volume, and then with AIX you do the config manager. You can make a volume group, make a general file system in that, and perhaps do a make sysb backup into that attached volume. You can then run the unmount vary off and export VG and remove the device. Then you can detach it, and that's sort of a separate item, perhaps nice and safe. You can also then attach it to another AIX virtual machine. Run the config manager to find the disk, import, vary it on, and mount it, and then you can read and write files. So you could use this as a nice backup mechanism, completely network free. And something else I found along the way, if we go back to our virtual machines, sometimes these names are picked up because we've done a deploy, and this will become the host name. That sort of fix. This is how these are being generated in here. If I've adopted a virtual machine that was already running, we'll pick up in here not the host name, but the name of the LPAR as found on the HMC. And sometimes, I don't know, I've got one here called handmade. Well, that's not very elegant. I could actually get PowerVC to forget this virtual machine and then go and find it again. So in this case, what I'd actually do, if I click on this guy in here and do a delete, it'll actually delete the whole virtual machine and the disks, and it's gone completely. If I click on here, and I can't remember which machine it was on, gold, okay. If I go here, and then I go to gold, I can see down in here which machines are using the most processors and memory in here. So we can see this one here is not using so much, but we can see handmade in here. If I click on this guy, I can say remove. That's not the same as delete. That means if you click on the button, it says removal. The virtual machine itself is not affected. All attached volumes will also be removed from the management, so it'll actually just forget about this LPAR. Then if I change the name on the HMC and then go to click on my host, gold, and manage existing virtual machines, it will go and find the name of ones that I'm not managing in here. It may be none in this case, but it will find the new one, and then I can say manage it and pull it back with a new name. That's just a quick dodge so we can actually rename our hosts. Perhaps in the future we'll have a rename option, but that will do for now. Well, at the end of this movie, two important places to go: the Red Books, regularly getting updated with new features as they arrive. Then there's the LinkedIn group called PowerVC. Lots of interesting discussions going on there, questions getting answered. There's also what are the next features that are likely to appear in the next one or two versions of PowerVC. Don't forget, if you've got an important feature that you want added, let us know. We can maybe be able to fit that in.